Hey, what is going on, everybody? My name is Liam, and I pick fights. Today on the show, I'm going to be joined by my man, Phoenix MMA. So for all of you guys that don't know, Phoenix is the man. He's a very sharp guy, got a sharp mind, and a lot of fun to talk fights with. So Phoenix, my man, I'll have you introduce yourself if you don't mind.
Thanks, man, for the introduction. Yeah, super excited to get these fights going. Had the week off. Got in early on the tape, beat some line movements, and I'm just excited to have some fights. Hopefully, I'm predicting a lot of violence, so hopefully, it should be a fun card.
Absolutely, man. Me too. I had told myself at the beginning of this year, I'm going to cut back on betting on guys inside the distance. I'm going to stop betting unders. I'm going to stop betting fight does not go. And here I am in 2021 having success doing all those things. So you never know when you're going to come across these wins in combat sports, man. And I feel like this is a big violence card as well. Maybe not in all the spots that people think. I feel like that heavyweight main event was probably picked by the UFC as a fight that they were targeting for a finish. And it's possible. I think that Jairzinho's pretty KO or bust in the spot, but I think that, that fight is more likely to be one of the ones that's going over, whereas a lot of these fights in the middle categories, the middleweight to light heavyweight range, I feel like those are the fights where we're seeing a lot of inside the distance violent spots.
Yeah,
So
for
what's
sure.
your favorite spot on the card, Phoenix? Why don't we start there?
Favorite spot on the card. So my favorite spot on the card is it's pretty popular. I haven't really seen anyone go the other way, but it's definitely going to be Dusko. Rodriguez fight doesn't go to decision. I know it's pretty
Nice.
chalky, minus like 270. I think I got in with it, but I think you can easily say that fight hits at least 80% of the time that it doesn't go. It's just two guys that are both offensively pretty talented. A lot of finishes on their records, very aggressive styles, and both guys that are very defensively liable. Rodriguez doesn't really move his head, doesn't really have the greatest chin, and Dusk obviously not the best striking defense, relies a lot on head movement. So I think one way or another this fight finishes. I think it probably finishes within the first two rounds. So the under 1.5 at plus money is not a bad play. But I bet the chalk, and I went pretty heavy on the fight doesn't go. I think that hits at least 80% of the time, and I like the value.
Nice. I ended up taking the under. I wanted to sort of just limit my exposure because I have gotten bit on some of these spots before where I feel very confident and I do lay the chalk. And what I did was limit my exposure. I went half a unit at plus 100 that the fight goes under 1.5. I think that based on the way that these guys fight, that Puna and Dusko fight, it wasn't like Dusko was having no success. He was just there striking in the pocket, exchanging for a lot of the fight. And I think that that's a volatile style. I think that's the reason why, even though Dusko's the more talented guy with more proven results, not by a great deal, but I would argue that that's true. He's not getting the same love at the betting window because it's such a high variance fight. And to avoid exposing myself to all that variance, I was like, you know what? I'm going to opt for the under 1.5. I'm going to limit my exposure. And I felt good about taking that spot. I kind of was interested in the Dusko money line when it was approaching minus 125, but I kind of talked myself out of it. I see a lot of sharp action is coming the way of Rodriguez. And I don't know. I just felt it was a little hard to make solid reads on Rodriguez, given that he was fighting guys that looked like they were half his size in a lot of the tape that I was watching. And so, yeah, if you have a 9-inch reach advantage or 8-inch height advantage and you outweigh the guy on fight night by 20 pounds, I'd hope you're dispatching those guys if you're going to be in the UFC. So, I don't know what to make of them, but I think that violence is the answer. No matter how you slice it, violence is the answer in that spot. I'm with you, man. What about the Dolidze Staropoli fight? How are you feeling about that one?
Yeah, that's an interesting fight. I see a lot of people taking the shot on Staropoli, and I get it in a way. Like Dolidze is very untrustworthy, but I just think the size advantage is going to be kind of evident in this fight. I think right, Dolidze obviously former light heavyweight, Staropoli coming up a weight class, so they were once upon a time 2 weight classes apart, and I just feel that Roman is going to be able to use that physicality and probably get this fight to the ground. On the feet, I do think it could get a little bit dicey, right? Staropoli is definitely more volume, but I'm not really as impressed as other people on Staropoli's striking. I think he's a little all over the place, kind of wacky in there. And I think Dolidze, I think I was one of the few. I didn't think Dolidze's striking was that terrible in his fight against Giles. I thought his striking looked improved from his previous fights, but realistically, I just think he's going to have success taking the fight to the ground. I think he's going to be the bigger guy. Cardio is a little bit meh. I think Staropoli is very live to win the last round, as he usually does turn up in the third round. But overall, from a
True.
betting perspective, I don't really have an interest. I think Dolidze wins, but he's a very untrustworthy fighter, and yeah, I think this fight could be violent. I think there could potentially be a finish in this fight, but from a betting perspective, I'm just going to stay away.
I hear that, man. I felt like, I felt a little interested in the Dolidze money line as it was approaching minus 145, and I had been staying off it waiting for the weigh-in, because
Yeah.
I had heard some people say that they thought Staropoli was going to grow into the weight class and this kind of thing. And so I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt. I wasn't as familiar with his work. I had to go back and watch it. And number one, I wasn't that impressed by the tape on Staropoli. Maybe I'm missing something, but I thought that his striking wasn't I described it as herky-jerky earlier this week, which I think is fair. It's kind of off balance, a little all over the place. Doesn't seem like it's very process-driven. And not to say that Dolidze is the most process-driven fighter, but in a battle of two not-so-process-driven fighters, I'll take the guy who's got the massive size advantage and gaps in physicality, probably the much better ground fighter. I think if somebody finishes this fight early, it's probably Dolidze. And so I think, should this fight go to decision, I would favor Dolidze probably at a 60% clip. And then I think that he has a lot more finishing upside. So for me, that was enough to justify the bet. I went 1.45 units on Dolidze after seeing them at weigh-ins, but it's not the biggest bet in the world. I'm sort of limiting, the exposure broadly on this card, right? It's one of the biggest bets I have on the card, but 1.45 units realistically is still a small enough stab. I just felt like there was value based on weigh-ins. And so while it was there, I wanted to take it. I feel like late money is going to come back on Dolidze when more people see that visual.
Yeah, I agree.
Cool. All right, man. The next one, the one that's been a subject of much controversy this week, and me and you have been going back and forth in the DMs. I'm trying to convince you one way, you're trying to convince me the other, and we've had a great banter about this one. What do you think about the Boser and Latifi fight, man? Give us your thoughts.
Yeah, so I was originally on Boser, but pretty decently. I thought he won very comfortably at the time. I did go back and watch some of his regional early tape with the grappling, and he didn't look promising. Watched some of his interviews, and he said multiple times that he's probably going to get taken down, and all he has to do is just get back up. I just don't think it's that easy. So yeah, I'm more on. I'm still. It
wasn't that easy against Smolderov.
Yeah, I'm still gonna be on the Boser side. I'm obviously not betting him. I have a different bet on this fight, but the reason that I'm picking Boser is I just feel that his tendency to play safe, which what a lot of people criticize against with him versus Arlovsky, right? His tentativeness to get involved and engaged. I just feel in this particular matchup that actually may serve him well, because from what I've seen on tape, Latifi is a guy that, especially recently, gets his takedowns from his opponents rushing him, like Derek Lewis flying knees, Volkan Oezdemir flying knees, and he's very good at ducking under and grabbing a hold of the double underhooks. I feel if he gets Boser in the double underhooks, I definitely think he'll be able to take him down. I mean, if he can fling Derek Lewis, I think he can take down Tanner Boser. I just feel that Boser's not going to put himself into a position where he can be taken down by Latifi. I feel like Latifi's gonna have to shoot a double or a single to get Boser to the ground, because Boser's a guy, to me, when I watch him, he plays it very safe, which is very frustrating as a bettor. But in this particular scenario, I feel that might actually play him well to not get really close to Latifi, because if he keeps this fight at range, I definitely think it's his fight. A little bit less so than I did originally, because even at range, like, I know we've been talking about this, he throws those light kicks, but like that's his primary weapon of attack, and Latifi's pretty good at catching those light kicks.
Some would call it his only weapon of attack. Continue.
Yeah, he doesn't really throw punches. I know you were talking about that, and he kind of doesn't, right? He's got the overhand right, but he's not really he's more of a counter striker. He's not really of a jabber. He doesn't throw the jab. You're right. He doesn't box. So I think he will have success in this fight. I think he can win at least 2 of the rounds. Latifi's cardio, I don't think it's as horrible as people are saying. I don't think it's great, but the bet I have on this fight is the over 2.5 at -138 for just a unit. I just feel that both are super durable, so I don't see Latifi knocking him out. Bozer is not really a power type puncher, right? He's knocked out two guys, Lins, who's super chinny, and Pizzoa, which arguably wasn't even a knockout. Like I think he just hit him in the eye, and it looked like he just gave up. So not really. I'm not really expecting a knockout. The only thing that could potentially finish this fight is a Latifi sub. I know you're interested in that one. And he could, right? If he has lots of top control, right? He likes the guillotine. Bozer's has potentially almost got guillotined by Smolderev, so it could definitely happen. But I feel that the over 2.5 probably hits at around a 65 clip. So I saw some value and took that shot. But yeah, for the pick, I'm going to pick Bozer by decision. I think he keeps the fight on the outside, maybe loses the first round, gets taken down. But it is a volatile matchup from the favorite point of view. I don't hate anyone taking the shot on Latifi, right? Because he does have a pretty strong path to victory where he looks the favorite pretty comfortably. So the official pick's going to be Bozer, but I kind of like the over in this spot.
I do not hate that at all. You know, I did end up on a Latifi sub ticket. I went very small, but you know, I was getting plus 1200, 7.5% or so implied probability. And I just feel like Latifi's going to be getting takedowns, top control in this spot. And, you know, I saw a really bad visual to me in the Bozer fight was that he looked like he was getting, you know, visibly put off by some of the Arlovsky punches, which Arlovsky didn't throw that many punches either, but he just was willing to throw punches and to step forward to throw them despite the leg kicks. And I think that Ilir could definitely do that. You know, like I think the idea that this fight is like completely out of reach for Latifi on the feet is a little out of line. Like I think that is he a significant underdog if this fight plays out only on the feet? Sure. But maybe plus 200, you know, or I would say plus 225. Like if it just played out on the feet, because Ilir Latifi has more power, in my opinion, than Tanner Bozer. He's more willing to throw punches when he gets in the pocket. And on top of that, I would argue he calf kicks harder. Tanner Bozer throws 25 calf kicks, 30 calf kicks a fight, and nobody stops walking. And Ilir Latifi throws 1 or 2 calf kicks, and guys start checking them, and they start respecting that because he actually puts power behind his shots. Now, does that also leave Ilir Latifi in a position where cardiovascularly he's a little spent towards the end of a contest? Of course. But I think that at heavyweight, he'll probably have better cardio than he did at light heavyweight because he's not draining himself to make the weight class anymore, which maybe will be the case for old Master Nduba. I didn't consider that as much, but I think he's, you know, when you're 42, it's probably a little different than when you're in your mid 30s. So I don't know, man. I feel like Ilir Latifi, he got into combat sports late. You know, he's not on his 35th fight or something like that. Like he came from another combat sport, and that could go a couple different ways, but I've liked what I've seen from him in recent footage. You know, it's not like he was getting blown out really in any fight but the Volkan fight. You know, he was very competitive in the Corey Anderson fight. He was, you know, I would argue he won the Derek Lewis fight. If he didn't win it, he very well could have. And you go back and look at the odds on that fight, you know.
Yeah.
I think that it justifies a bet in retrospect on Ilir Latifi, his performance in that fight. And I rate Derek Lewis more highly than I do Tanner Bozer, you know, not by a great deal. Like I think Tanner Bozer is a talented guy with some upside, but unless he's able to put it all together and willingly come into the pocket, I don't know, man. I feel comfortable with 0.2 units on Ilir Latifi by sub. I think he could club and sub him. I think he could control from top and maybe find a choke from the back, something like that. You know, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I don't think Latifi has brilliant jiu-jitsu. I just think he's so much stronger and more physical that he might be able to muscle his way into a sub. And I also think that he has some path to a decision victory, especially with grappling control time. So I took a 0.69 unit stab on the Latifi money line at plus 160. And I'm comfortable with where that bet is as well. I think that Latifi's probably going to close plus 140 would be my guess. Maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like that's where the line has been trending, especially in the last few days. So I think that As long as I get closing line value, I'm good with it.
Yeah, definitely could happen. The sub definitely has a lot of value. I was looking at that myself earlier in the week when it was at plus 1200. It's come down to what, like plus like 800 now or something like that, or 900.
I didn't even see that, but that makes me happy to hear.
Yeah, I think it came down. Let me just double check. Latifi wins, but oh no, it's still plus 1,000. Plus 1,000.
Oh, okay. So it's come down a little bit,
Yeah,
but yep. So still a good enough number out there to take a stab, in my opinion. But that will be to everybody's own prerogative. How about Mason Jones, Alan Patrick? I feel like this is like a unanimous community decision. I
yeah,
feel like everybody's sort of the same way on this fight, which makes me scared.
yeah. I haven't seen pretty much anybody on Alan Patrick. I think Mason Jones. I'm gonna follow the unanimous. I just think Mason Jones is definitely the side here. I think the line is accurate where it is now, like minus 300. Um, the only reason that I haven't played him in any way is because I just feel that, you know, he is taken down. I'm not going to say easy, but relatively easily. But his get up game is very solid. So I do think Patrick will have some success getting Jones to the floor. But when Jones keeps getting back up and back up and back up, it's just going to get really exhausting for Patrick, who's shown that he kind of slows down later in fights, especially when, in my opinion, he's completely outmatched on the feet. Jones is going to keep walking him down. He's not going to give him any space to kind of initiate the wrestling. Patrick doesn't really set anything up. He kind of just like blitzes forward with his chin in the air and tries to get your legs and get you down. So I just feel this is Mason Jones' fight to lose, right? He's got the youth, coming off a great performance against Mike Davis, where his stock definitely rose, and I think this is just a really good fight for him to win. The only thing that does concern me is maybe Patrick gets him down and controls him for a little bit. I don't think he's live to finish the fight, but I don't know. Patrick has shown some good top control in the past, and Jones has been taken down kind of easily to a degree. But Jones is like no fish out of the water on his back. I think he's a black belt. So
In judo and jiu-jitsu, as far as
yeah,
I'm aware. Yep.
yeah. So I think this is definitely Mason Jones all day. Mason Jones inside the distance or by KO. I'd probably play him inside the distance because I think the sub prop plus like 1,700 is way off. I think he could definitely sub this fight potentially. But I do think he knocks him out eventually. Patrick's not the most durable guy. I think both of his losses or two of his three losses are by KO. So I'm
I'm
gonna,
with you there.
yeah,
I think that there's upside on either one of those props, and I played the inside the distance at plus 110. I think that number is still sitting out there. So
yeah,
for people interested, I believe you could still find that plus 110 inside the distance. I just did 0.91 units to win a unit, and I felt like Mason Jones is my most confident pick on the card. I think Alan Patrick, he does look in better physical condition for this fight, but just some of the things I've seen from him in the past, the Bobby Green fight, he was like consistently out grappled by Bobby Green.
yeah.
And I kind of think that Mason Jones would be favored to beat Bobby Green as well. So with that in mind, I'm on Mason Jones inside the distance, and I feel pretty good about it. One thing I want to mention, thank you so much, Wael. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He says, yo, Liam, seen you on Lock of the Night last night. I like how you break down fights and your predictions. Thank you very much, Wael. I appreciate you, and I hope that you're enjoying the stream, man. The next fight that we are going to talk about, and guys, if you want to see any specific fight breakdown first, let us know. Drop it in the comments. We will happily do that. But I want to talk about Woodson Zalal, baby. Another controversial one, another one. This one's got the community split. I think that there's a lot of people out there that really like what they've seen from Sean Woodson. They like the length, they like the physical advantages, and they like the vet lesson that he learned last time out. They think he's going to come back in this spot and do well. More power to him. I'm going the other way. You know where I stand, but Phoenix MMA. Let's hear it, brother. What you got?
Yeah, I think the community as a whole agrees that the line is off, or and the line is obviously coming in on the Zalal side. I do slightly favor Woodson here at like 60% clip. To me, it just comes down to on the feet. I do think a lot of people do think that like I've heard that Sean Woodson's like it's kind of like a mismatch on the feet. I definitely don't think it's like anything like that. I think Zalal can hold himself on the feet. However, I do think Sean Woodson definitely has the advantage, right? He's got the length, he's got the better boxing. Zalal probably has the better kicks. He probably does have the better kicks, but
I agree.
Woodson's got the better volume as well. So I feel on the feet, Woodson should be in control. And the fact that Zalal isn't a pressure fighter, to me, that really bothers me when I want to back the Zalal side, because I don't think it's the only way to beat Sean Woodson, but I do feel it's a very strong way to beat Sean Woodson. I feel when Sean Woodson is the one controlling the pace, controlling, putting forward the pressure, that he's really in a zone and he can really get his shots off pretty well. Zalal, but obviously with Zalal, he's got the takedown upside. He's got the wrestling upside. Woodson does have pretty good takedown defense, especially against the fence. So I do feel that Zalal, if he is going to get the fight to the ground, it's going to have to be from open space, and I think he can. I think he can get the fight. He's got some pretty decent wrestling, good takedowns. However, I do feel, and obviously we've seen that Sean Woodson off his back isn't the greatest, right? He was controlled by Terrence McKinney in the Contender Series, who kind of did very well yesterday.
I was going to say, yeah, Terrence McKinney, we might have to reevaluate how we felt about that tape, because this man's for real. Although, in fairness, I thought that Terrence McKinney was justifying his price in that fight. He was a huge favorite, and he was absolutely mopping Sean Woodson for 7.5 minutes and got knocked out with one knee. I was like,
yeah, that was crazy.
Blown away.
Yeah, and Sean Woodson's lines have kind of been all over the place, right? Like, as you said, big underdog to McKinney. Then he came in at the even money -100 underdog against Bokniak. And then he comes out and he's -500 against the Rosa. So it really didn't make too much sense. And now, again, he's a favorite here. I'm kind of interested that they're matching these two guys up, because in a way, like, Zalal's still a prospect, right? 24 years old. He's already had 5 UFC fights. And Woodson, I think he is still relatively has decently high upside. So I'm surprised they're matching them up when they both need a win here. But I am going to favor Woodson just because I feel on the feet. I feel like Zalal may get a takedown or two, but I feel it is going to be a little bit difficult for Zalal to get the fight to the ground repeatedly and hold him down. Zalal's cardio, I don't know if it's honestly that kind of high level. I see a lot of people saying that Zalal's got really good cardio. He kind of looked a little bit tired in his recent fights, in my opinion, from what I saw. And another thing that's keeping me off the Zalal side is he just had a fight against Choi. And I think Choi is kind of similar to Woodson in a way. I think Choi's the better fighter, but they're both long. The path to victory for both of those guys is to take them down. And, Choi won that fight. I'm not going to say convincingly, but he clearly won the fight, in my opinion. So I do slightly edge Woodson here, probably at like -140, -150, but the line is off. I do think the line is off, especially where it opened. And I think there's some value on Zalal. If you think he can get the fight to the ground, for sure, you should definitely be taking that shot.
I think there's a couple interesting things about that Choi fight. I think, number one, it's an example of a fight where at the end, it's a clear winner, right? Choi clearly wins the fight. But each round, when you watch it, it's not like a blowout round. It's like each round is a competitive Choi round. Choi wins every round, but it's competitive, And I think that when you look at Youssef Zalal's body of work, I think it's partly colored by the fact that he's taken these fights on short notice, right? I think his cardio has looked exceptionally good in like outward grappling performances, like it did against Austin Lingo when he debuted in the UFC, but he's now taking fights against higher levels of competition and on short notice. The Ilia Topuria fight, he went into that fight as a favorite. Need I remind you? Because Ilia Topuria was coming into the fight on short notice. People probably didn't know as much who he was at the time. And so, Zalal loses that fight and people are, a little bit out on the Zalal train, but he still opened up as a favorite against Choi. But this was a guy coming off 3 wins in the UFC. And then I think Choi was 0-2 in the UFC or something at that point. He was coming off losses to, what's his name?
Yeah, I know he lost to Gavin Tucker. I know he had a loss to.
Yes, and Evloev, maybe?
Yes.
There's another grappling guy. Yeah.
Evloev.
And so, I don't know, man. I think that when you look at the level of competition that Zalal's facing, these guys are very, very good fighters, and he's not had a fight where he was blown out, Sean Woodson was having a competitive stand-up affair with Julian Erosa. That's what it was. It was a stand-up affair. There was no grappling in that fight until Julian Erosa submitted him basically from the feet. So it was a striking fight that he lost. And granted, it was to a pressure fighter, but I think that his sort of bag of tricks and the feints and the whatever, they weren't really getting to Erosa. Erosa was just willing to be hit and punch him and stay in his face. I don't know that you could do that to somebody like Yusuf Zalal necessarily as easily. Like I think that he's a more clever fighter. I think he's got paths, man. He's got multiple sets of skills. Like he's hurt and rocked guys on the feet in the UFC, hasn't gotten a finish, but he's also had guys in near sub opportunities, including Ilia Topuria, who's one of the better grapplers in the division. Granted, was Topuria getting tired towards the end? Sure. Are we saying Woodson's out of the woods on getting tired at the end of a fight? No. And especially if it's a more grappling centric fight, you know, I would be curious to see how he would have fared in that McKinney fight if it had seen a third round. He would have probably been exhausted. And I think that, you know, when you get controlled for 7.5 minutes and Meme knocks somebody out as a plus 300 or whatever, like that is you being your price. You got controlled utterly, and then you got the knee. Like that didn't say to me he was better than I thought. Then he fights Kyle Bochniak, who walks onto punches in every fight he has. It's like, for me, a big volume puncher punching up Kyle Bochniak with like a huge height and reach advantage. Again, what does that tell me about his skill set? Not a tremendous amount. So he has one tough fight in the UFC against Julian Erosa, who's on a bit of a run right now, but wasn't a UFC standout when he was around the first time. It's like, I don't know. Something about this fight tells me that Woodson is the hype side and Zalal is like probably the more talented fighter. We're going to live and learn at the end of this, but I've got right now 0.65 units, Yusuf Zalal plus 160. I've got 0.2 units, Zalal inside the distance at plus 600, which most places that line's gone, but it does exist on one or two books as far as I remember. And lastly, I am 0.2 units. This is my freaking hot take, bold prediction. I see Sean Woodson losing this fight in a very similar fashion to the last fight. Granted, it won't look the same. I think there'll be more grappling. I think that he'll be getting chopped down with the calf kicks from the outside when he's exchanging with Zalal. And I think that this could end up being certainly a more competitive fight than the odds had indicated. But 100%. In addition, man, I don't see why Yusuf Zalal, who's got a pretty tricky front headlock Darce game himself and long arms, can't finish somebody like Sean Woodson, especially if he starts to get tired. So I'm taking Yusuf Zalal. If he wins in round 3, we're all going Sizzler, boys. I'm buying everybody around to drinks. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. Also, just to add on, if you're on the Woodson side, I think it's pretty safe to say that you just might as well take him by decision. I mean, you're cutting a minus 175, minus 180 to a plus like 130, plus 135. I just don't. Woodson's not a finisher, right? He's not really a power puncher. He's more of a volume fighter. And Zalal's super tough guy, never been finished. So if you're on the Woodson side, take him by decision. But yeah, I definitely think Zalal's going to make the fight closer than the odds indicate.
I'm with you there.
And yeah,
Zalal's got a good chin too. That's the thing. I think that Woodson, you know, if he's winning this fight, he's going to be cracking him. He's going to be putting shots on him. But I've just seen Woodson. He's got the weirdest career, man. I don't know if you went back. He fought the same guy twice. That is now like unfortunately passed away. Like just I don't know, man. He's had a very strange career in my opinion. Very hard guy to make an assessment on. Yeah. And he's not at James Krause's gym for whatever that's worth. For whatever that's worth. Everybody loves betting on Glory MMA and fitness, and then he leaves the gym and everybody's like, "Nah, it doesn't matter." Like I don't know, man. We'll see. That one's a fight I'm interested in. Next up, man, I feel like this is, I'm going to certify it right now. The Liam Heslin low-key banger of the week, Santiago Ponzinibbio, Miguel Baeza. I think that this is a hell of a fight, man. Break it down. What do you got?
Yeah, this is a very tough fight to call. For me personally, I can't bet this fight, right? Because in my opinion, in hindsight, looking back, I feel one of these two guys is going to look like minus 200, minus 250. I feel that Miguel Baeza, right, he's got the youth on his side. He's got the being more active, right, with Ponzinibbio's layoff. But Ponzinibbio's got the experience, right, triple his fights. It's just tough to really cap Ponzinibbio because, right, he looked so good against Neil Magny. Like when he's going forward and he's putting on the pressure, there's not too many people out there that can beat that guy. Like when he's in his rhythm. But then again, you look at the fight against the Leech, and he looked very bad. Like he did not look good. Even just like we saw like 3-4 minutes of that fight play out, and he just didn't look like himself. Right, he wasn't really throwing. And then the second he tries to engage, he gets KO'd. So I feel if Ponzinibbio comes back and looks like himself, because he definitely could. I definitely feel like ring rust was a big factor in that fight. Right, like coming back after that long a layoff and like a life threatening situation is definitely very. And the Leech is no easy out. It's not like it was like a tune-up fight or anything. So I definitely think ring rust probably played a big part in that. I definitely think he could bounce back. It's just it's tough, man. I just don't know. I think his run was a tad bit overrated in a degree. He definitely beat some good fighters, but he had to work for a lot of those fights. Like it wasn't like he walked through everybody. Like Mike Perry was a very competitive fight. Mike Perry kind of put it on him at times. I think he hurt him a couple times. So I definitely think he's the better fighter from 2 years ago in this fight. I definitely think he'd win this fight. But Miguel Baeza is like not a guy to be slept on. You go back and you look at his like Matt Brown fight and you say, oh, he was rocked, he was hurt bad.
That's a great fight, by the way.
Yeah,
everybody watched that fight just for entertainment. That's a hell of a fight.
The kind of lesson I took from that fight, and obviously against the Contender Series guy, I can't remember his name, but obviously he was losing Victor Reina, and he was losing minutes in that fight as well. I just feel we're seeing.
Admittedly, though, I don't know if you're aware, Victor Reina was 8.5 or some kind of pounds over for that fight. Like he missed weight completely. And Baeza is a gangster, dude. He's like, all right.
Yeah.
I'll take the fight.
Yeah.
And he still beat him up, dude.
Yeah, he did. I just feel that what we're seeing from Miguel Baeza is improvements. I feel a lot of people are kind of like discrediting the fact that he's improving. It's not just like you go from Matt Brown to Takashi Sato, and he's going from almost getting hurt by Brown. Obviously not saying that Takashi Sato is like some big prospect. He's not that amazing of a fighter, but like he looked very good in that fight. Like everything was on point for him. Like the grappling, he got that submission. On the feet, he looked great. He looked very defensively sound. He looked like he was making improvements defensively and offensively. He was picking his shots well. So I think we're seeing a Miguel Baeza who's improving fight to fight. And it's kind of hard for me to like, I know a lot of people are getting off of him because he got hurt by Matt Brown or he was losing minutes to Victor Reina, but I truly think that he's just improving. He's getting much better from fight to fight. And I think he can be, I'm going to pick him to win this fight. I'm going to pick him by KO. I think he cracks Ponzinibbio, who is already relatively chinny. It's just, this is a fight where I want nothing to do with it, because if Ponzinibbio comes back and looks like really good and just needed that one fight to get the cage rust off, then he could definitely win this fight. He could definitely hurt Baeza. I know a lot of people on the violent side, the alternate 2.5 line, which is a pretty decent spot. I'm going to stay off because I do kind of think that they might play a little bit of like technical striking for a decent portion of the fight. But this is definitely the low-key banger of the week. This is a great fight. I'm super excited for this fight, and we'll see if the passing of the torch is official.
Absolutely, man. Real quick, want to shout out our man Wael, sticking with the stream. God bless you, Wael. Man, I hate seeing Krause in the corner of a guy I bet against. I swear, yelling sways the judges, bro. I don't think that you're on the wrong track there. I think every gambler is right there with you, thinking the same thing, that if they see Krause in the opposite corner, they're like, damn it, son of a bitch, I got duped again. I think that as it goes to this fight, though, we got Baeza, we got Ponzinibbio. This is a hell of a fight, man. I think that when I look at the Miguel Baeza side, man, I come away impressed. That's how I come away impressed, man. He's 15 fight win streak since he's been in the amateurs. I watched back as far as his amateur championship fight, where again, he's taken on a guy. What I like about this guy, Miguel Baeza, man, he takes risks, not afraid to take risks, take on hard fights, right? So he, in his last amateur fight, he's fighting a guy who I want to say was, again, like 178, 179 type pounds, bigger guy. Think Baeza came in on the right weight there, and he dispatched that fellow, right? No problem. And I think that was a 3-round decision, right? But he was out striking him. He was working the grappling. I think that this guy has skills in every position, right? And I think he's built the career the right way, had an amateur career, proved himself on the amateur scene, got some wins, got some cage time accumulated. Then he starts working his way up, right? He doesn't rush. He doesn't go right from the amateurs, 3 fights into his pro career, tries to get in the UFC. He waits it out, gets some experience under his belt, willing to take on, like we said, tough challenge. Victor Reina, Victor Reina is not a bad fighter. I'm not saying he's a world beater, but not a bad fighter, comes in overweight. And I thought that he looked very good in that spot. So I think Baeza has been showing me improvements every time out. I think on top of that, he's got skills in every position. Like he's excellent standing. His defense isn't perfect. It's obviously not great, but I think his recoverability against Matt Brown was phenomenal. And I think that's because he's in excellent shape. I think that he's in excellent shape every time he makes the number on the scale. He's a big 170 pounder. He's going to have a slight reach advantage in this matchup. And I think he's going to have a big hand speed advantage. He's a younger guy. I think that he is on the career upswing. I don't think Pons is like a bad fighter now. I think he's got tough matchmaking. I think he's got, the game has passed him by a little bit. I think he doesn't have the same timing, the same reactions, the same speed. And like you pointed out, if you watch his early UFC run, he's a entertaining fighter. There is wars happening. There is hands flying everywhere. People are getting hurt. People are falling down. People are flying all over the place. It's chaotic. I think that this reminds me of Marlon Moraes. And let me tell you why, man. Marlon, so talented, excellent skills. You can't say today that Marlon just sucks, right? Like his skills didn't just drop off a cliff. But I think sometimes what happens is, man, when you're an athletic guy who relies on athleticism, and on top of that, you rely on your durability to get you through wars, to get you wins. He wants to win so damn bad, he'll take this beating to get it, right? Even in fights he wins, like the Magny fight, he came out of that with a bloody face, with a bloody eye, he was in a fight every time. Gunnar Nelson had him rocked before he finished Gunnar Nelson, and that's a short fight. It's like, I think that Santiago Ponzinibbio used to be able to take shots, put pressure on somebody, and come back. But I think that when your style relies on you being on top of somebody, in their face, putting on pressure, if you can't take the same punch anymore, that's a huge problem. Massive. And I saw Miguel Baeza take a brutal shot from Matt Brown, one of the most prolific finishers in UFC history, and come back and recover and hurt Matt Brown and almost finish him in the same round. On the other hand, we see the Leech tag Pons with a hard shot, and Pons is like asking the referee 30 seconds later, where are we? What happened? And the Leech isn't known for being this like devastating one-shot power puncher, is he? Like I feel like I'm a little concerned for Pons. I'm a little concerned with how he's being match made, and I think that people are, like you said, seeing that Matt Brown fight, seeing an opportunity for Pons to find that old fire again. But I think that unless Santiago Ponzinibbio is able to keep this fight in a boxing range exclusively, I think he's going to have a really hard time, because I think that the body kicks are like massive problem. I think that the head kick off the body kick is going to be there. I think that he could chew up Pons' calf from the outside. And I don't think that he has bad punching mechanics. Like, I think that if he throws a 1-2 in reaction to a Santiago Ponzinibbio 1 or 2, he could absolutely knock him out on the return, even if he eats the shot. And so I like Baeza here. I didn't want to go crazy. I see that action's coming back on him late. I took inside the distance plus 135, 0.74 units on that to return me 1 unit. So that's the action that I ended up taking. I think somebody goes down. I think that under 2.5, if you have alternative round totals, is a great spot. I think fight does not go to decision's a good spot. But again, if we do see the scorecards, who wins that fight, then it becomes more interesting, right? I think then the people with the money on Pons might be onto something. Not to say that Baeza can't win a decision. Like I said, he's got tools everywhere. He's got grappling skills as well. If he gets hurt, he might be able to go for a takedown, something like that, try and mix it up. But I will say that Pons probably a more proven
Yeah.
point fighter over the stretch, and especially against the quality of competition. So acknowledging up front that Baeza could get starched, he could lose this decision. I think that the upside is on the younger, more dynamic fighter in this spot. I think that Pons has been dealt from the bottom of the deck because the UFC is trying to build a new star off of his name.
Yeah. Another thing I will say before we move on is I definitely a big part of Pons' game, even in the it wasn't as evident in the Leach fight, but it's his movement, right? He's always like moving, bobbing his head, going side to side, forward and backwards. And Baeza's got some dirty calf kicks, man. Like he finished Aldana with them. He hurt Brown with them a couple times. It looked like Brown kind of wins. So I feel if you can utilize the calf kicks early and limit Pons' movement, limit his explosions, I feel like he could have a lot of success with that.
Dude, he absolutely could have leg kicked TKO'd Sato if he wanted to. No doubt in my mind. No doubt in my mind. Kicks. And I heard somebody say this. I wish I could credit them. I can't remember who it was, but they thought that Baeza beat Sato in like first gear. That's exactly how I felt watching that. I felt like he didn't even have to try that hard. Just went out there, started doing his game, started putting his tools together, and he was like, oh, no, it's already over.
He looked awesome in that fight.
Absolutely. And I don't rate Sato that highly, but I just think Baeza has been getting the right matchups to build himself slowly, whereas Pons just back into the deep end of the pool, take on these young contenders. Like I feel like he should have been given some other aging vet, some other, a guy that he could get his feet wet, get his timing, eat a couple punches and see where he's at. Whereas, you don't want the first hard punches you felt in a while to be from Li Jingliang or, freaking Miguel Baeza. I'll tell you that. I wouldn't want that.
Yeah, just going to be a great fight, honestly. I just want to watch, kind of evaluate both guys, see where they are. But yeah, the under 2.5, if you have alternate lines, is a pretty good spot. And Baeza inside the distance, I think that's how he gets it done. So plus 135 is a pretty good number.
I don't know that it'll exist for long, man. I think that might get steamed late too. The other fight that we got to talk about, have to, Walt Harris, Marcin Tybura. Such a weird one. Such a high variance spot, I feel like. I think it's two very clear paths, right? I think we've got people on the one side, they're saying, hey, this is going to be another Walt Harris knockout in the very first round. Tybura is a guy that gets knocked out. It's happened to him before in the UFC, including against the likes of Augusto Sakai. So, that's one path. The other path, Marcin Tybura probably has better cardio, probably has a better process, probably going to manage his energy better over the course of a 15-minute fight, probably going to be live to find a finish later in the fight, where Walt Harris is probably pretty reliant on the early finish in this spot. So I have one very confident play on this fight, 1.25 units. The fight does not go to decision. I got it at minus 155. That has been bet up to, I think, minus 180, almost market wide. But I'd have to double check on best fight odds. I think that
minus 175, minus 175.
Well, there you go, folks. I think that is probably a good spot for this fight, because we see that Walt Harris, he has a decision win over Andrei Arlovski. This is what people may not have recognized if you didn't go back and watch the tape. He's one of the few guys to have that notch under his belt, but I watched the fight back. It's not this impressive drubbing that he puts on Arlovski. He had a very good and active round one, and then he had two significantly less active rounds that were competitive with Arlovski. So I do think that, it's hard to evaluate Walt Harris these days. His last two fights, it seemed like an adrenaline dump, if I'm honest, in the Overeem fight, especially. Just, I felt like he had the tools to win that fight. He almost won that fight, and he kind of oversold. Like he just sold out. He sold out in the first round, lost it all, and Overeem's a wily vet, able to make the comeback. Then you see Volkov. I had 2.5 units on Volkov, and I thought that was like obvious that Volkov was going to mess him up. Volkov is just such a better striker at range, and that's sort of what Walt Harris is hoping that you can do. So it's like Walt wants to be where Volkov will absolutely wreck him. And so I also had, I want to say, another unit on Volkov by KO, TKO at plus 185 or something, which again, just an absurd line. But I think that this is a fun fight. I think that it could turn into a snoozer and a disaster. That's my only fear is that Marcin Tybura just gets his mitts all over this fight and makes it greasy and slow. But I kind of favor the Walt Harris side myself. I would not play Walt Harris's money line, although I've been a little more tempted as it approaches, plus 175 or so. I saw plus 165 earlier. I think if it hit plus 185, I would definitely get involved. But right now, Walt Harris, round 1 knockout. I feel like a lot of people got on that and might regret it because I feel like he could knock him out in the second round too. Like I'm not sure what distinguishes round 1 from round 2 for Walt. He's definitely more active in round 1, but I don't know why it would be outside the realm of possibility, particularly given how his last few fights have gone. He's fighting for his career, in my opinion. So I do think that Walt's going to try his very best. He's going to try and show up in shape as best he can. And I think that he has a decent enough chance of winning this fight in the first 7.5 minutes and a very good chance of throwing the fight away in the last 7.5 minutes if he has not already won. And so that's why I felt comfortable playing fight does not go to decision. But if Marcin Tybura just stays away kicking his leg or something down the stretch, I'm going to be very, very sad.
Yeah, I'm kind of split down the middle on this fight. One thing I will say is I completely disagree with the fact that Marcin Tybura is justified to be a minus 180, minus 185 favorite in some spots. I just don't really see why he should be this high favorite. I don't think Marcin Tybura is all that good. Personally, I'm not a Marcin Tybura believer. Right. So 4 fights ago, this guy was fighting for his job. Right, tough matchups for Doom, Lewis, Shamil, and Augusto. Tough fights, but he was fighting for his job. Not a lot of people were high on him. And then he goes out there, he beats Sergey Spivak, which in my opinion is his most impressive win of his 4-fight stretch. I thought he fought very well in that fight, but again, that was kind of an earlier Spivak. I think he's better now. I think he's improved from then. Maxim Grishin, who's not a heavyweight. I mean, he kind of just held him against the fence the whole time. Not much resistance. I mean, he was the much bigger guy in there. Ben Rothwell, which I see a lot of people saying that Tybura looked really good in that fight. I completely disagree. I think Ben Rothwell looked absolutely terrible in that fight. I think he just ran at him, kind of blitzing, not blocking any strikes. He was throwing 400 strikes and landing 20. He wasn't landing any strikes. So I think it was I think Walt Harris would have KO'd him if he was doing that to him. And then he beats Greg Hardy in an impressive win, weathered the early storm. And then took over down the stretch.
Impressive enough, man. I was appalled. I held a Greg Hardy ticket, and I'm watching Greg Hardy outbox him easily, and I'm like, thank you, Greg. Thank you. And then I'm like, Greg, have you ever trained on the ground before? I swear, man, the look of panic in his eyes. I was like, this guy has never done jiu-jitsu. He's never been underneath another grown man. I was baffled. He got finished by this.
I know.
It was like somebody knocking on the door. It wasn't even punches. I was like, come on, man.
Yeah, it was
got me
bad,
fired up, dude.
It was bad. And then you look at Walt Harris, right? Volkov, I mean, I thought he looked okay against Volkov. I don't think Volkov is the much better fighter. Volkov is one of the best guys in the division skill-wise for sure, especially standing. So I thought I can't really hold too much against him in that spot. Overeem, like you said, that was more of an adrenaline dump more than showing really bad cardio. He was obviously coming off the tragedy, man. He probably just, complete adrenaline dump. And I think that a big portion of Walt Harris's win condition is the early knockout. However, I think that is a pretty likely outcome to happen. Marcin Tybura, I feel like this is a guy who has very poor striking defense. He's much slower. He's going to be at the massive speed disadvantage here, in my opinion. He blocks strikes extremely slower and kind of awkwardly, which I don't think is going to go good against Harris. So unless he's going to eat shots in the first round, I'm very confident in saying that Walt Harris is going to land a decent amount of clean shots in that first round. And if Tybura takes them and then, gets the fight to the ground and finishes, credits to him. I'll fade him next time because I don't think the guy's all that good. But
I
what I
love it.
will say is I think Walt Harris is very live to get him out of there in the first round or early in the second round or maybe even later in the second round. I think once it gets to the third round, then it's getting a little bit dicey for Walt. But I don't think Marcin Tybura's cardio is like incredible. I mean, I'm gonna go back to the Arlovsky fight, which was a while ago, and he looked exhausted in that fight, albeit it was a lot of grappling and stuff, and it was a while ago. But I
He
mean, his
didn't have his
cardio.
current Flintstone vitamins. You understand?
Yeah, his cardio didn't look good in that fight. I just feel on the feet, this is a mismatch. I just feel Marcin Tybura is not the greatest striker in the world. I think that again, looking at his recent wins, like most of these, like all of these wins were on the ground, and that's definitely where he's going to have success. He's got to get this fight to the ground, but I think Walt Harris is obviously
Wrestling
not an
is not
easy guy
bad.
to take down. He's not an easy guy to take down, right? 72% takedown defense. He kind
I
of
think he was an Alabama state champion, if I'm remembering correctly, for wrestling. I might be
he
wrong
might have
about
been.
that, but
He might have been. I don't maybe. Not sure on that, but and I will say this, when he gets taken down for the first like 10 seconds or so, he does explode back up. It's not like he accepts bottom position as soon as he gets on the mat. So I feel like Greg Hardy is a completely different matchup than Walt Harris.
he was a basketball player. I'm imagining things. He was a basketball player, dude.
I just feel Walt Harris is the much better athlete. He's a much quicker guy in there. I feel he can have some success.
We got our boy Wael is telling us, yo, Poland on fire right now, boys. No way Harris puts out the flames. Hey, Wael, good luck to you, my good man. I will not be following you with the Poland play, but I also think that Marcin Tybura, if you're just talking about who's got the upside in terms of the decision, the outright win, obviously Marcin Tybura is more likely to win the fight because he's more likely to be able to win the fight in the third round and to be able to win the fight by decision. But I don't know that it justifies his price, especially heavyweight is such a high variance weight class. And Walt Harris he's not a bad fighter. Like he's been in there with very good fighters losing in fights where he had, some moments. Like I just don't think that it's as big an indictment as people are making it out to be to get knocked out by Overeem and Volkov. Like I just feel like they're very good fighters. And granted, they're not the best. They're not the best of what heavyweight has to offer right now, but I could tell you Marcin Tybura is not the best of what heavyweight has to offer right now, in this one man's opinion. Also, real quick, we've got Wang Yi, and if I'm mispronouncing ever, please let me know. Sup, Liam, loved your points and thoughts on the fights with the crew. Seemed like you're retaining the information. Thank you. I appreciate the kind comments from you. Really excited to hear the thoughts moving forward. Absolutely, man. Good luck to you, and we appreciate you stopping by, no doubt. All right, last one, Mr. Phoenix. Any thoughts on this main event that you've got for me? We got Augusto Sakai, Jairzinho Rozenstruik. This is what I call a don't touch with a 10-foot pole kind of fight, at least for me. And not to say that there's not value to be had, just a fight that I wasn't that interested in. I don't find either of these guys that fun to watch. So it wasn't a fight I got, jonesed up to research. Now, granted, I will say that from my research, I was more impressed with Augusto Sakai than I ever remember being. Like, I feel like he has some decent skills, especially for a heavyweight where, a lot of times it doesn't even come down to the skills. It comes down to raw physicality and some other factors. And I think that, Jairzinho is such a weird guy to cap. He's a weird guy to get a read on. Like, I don't know, man. He's not doing a lot in his fights. So there's not a tremendous amount of tape that you could really break down of his. Like he only fights for 15-second bursts at a time, but he's very dangerous. He's a very powerful guy. When he does burst with offense, guys respect it, retreat, often wear damage on their face. And I was so impressed by the Overeem fight. Now, granted, a lot of people mention that on every judge's scorecard. I don't give a shit what every judge is scoring. How many times have we seen every judge score a fight wrong? So I like to score these fights myself when I go back and watch. I don't just I compare, right? I keep mine and then I keep the official result. And I thought that you could make an argument, geez, now I'm blanking on their name because there's too many heavyweights. Jairzinho. I could argue that Jairzinho had won two of those 4 rounds that had taken place. I'm not saying that it was like run away, but like I don't think that he can't win a decision. I think it's less likely. I think his percentage likelihood of winning a decision is quite low, but I also recognize and acknowledge like he was winning rounds against Alistair Overeem standing on the feet. If Augusto Sakai takes him down, now maybe we're talking about a new dynamic, but I don't know how reliable Augusto Sakai's wrestling is in this matchup. And I also don't know if his durability is going to be the same as we've seen it before because he's coming off the knockout. And so with those kind of variable factors, I'll probably just end up staying away from this one. But if you've got thoughts, I know you have one play, and I do like the way that you attack this, by the way, because I think it's a fight where we're not going to be seeing a tremendous amount happen. The only reason I didn't follow you on this one is I'm just afraid of that Biggie Boy first round knockout. If Augusto comes in with some gusto, try to get in his face, try to get after him early, and just gets touched once really hard on the chin and goes down. I don't think that's all that likely. He's the bigger heavyweight. Seems like a big guy, a lot of weight in his ass. He's probably not going to get off balanced easily by a shot. But I do think when I see Biggie Boy punch a hole in somebody's face in the 5th round, I'm like, that guy has freaky, weird power. And I've watched a lot of fights, man. Have you ever seen something like that where somebody just gets like a piece of their face punched out? I've never seen it. I was like,
yeah, and it was
that's
kind of
terrifying.
just like a straight right too. It wasn't even like some like outside the box weird punch. It was just like a straight right down the middle. Done.
Yeah, simple punch erases face. Like, I don't want to fight that guy. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Before I start with this fight, I just want to quickly go back to the Tybura thing just for a second with his line.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he's minus 175 right now, but against Greg Hardy, he was the dog. Against Rothwell, he was the dog. Against Grishin, he was only minus 130. Against Spivak, he closed the dog. Sakai, he was the dog. So like it's just I don't know why we're getting minus 185 now on Walt Harris, who's arguably like probably better than all 4 of these guys, I think, in my opinion, that he's just beat. Maybe not Spivak now.
Everybody who's on Tybura is on his money line, and everybody who's on Walt Harris is on his props. That would be my guess. But I also don't know for sure, man, because I do think that once you start approaching plus 185 for Walt Harris, it's like, yeah. I don't know, man. Are we saying plus 185? We've got a 35% indication. I think you can indicate 40% Walt Harris knockout right now.
Probably.
I think you could put 35% on Walt Harris knockout right now. At least.
That's what I have it as, yeah.
So I don't know, man. I think that we're saying he has a 0% chance to win a decision. He has a 0% chance to win by submission. It's just a little interesting.
By submission.
It's a little interesting, you know?
Yeah. So,
I mean, yeah, he's probably not going to submit him, granted, but Ilir Latifi's not going to submit OSP until he does. Like it's like there's just weird outcomes. I think that was plus 900 plus 1100, something like that when it happened. I just think it's not a likely outcome. But again, now we're just looking at percentages. Is it 2%? And is it 1%? What about the decision? Is it 4%? Is it 5%? Because now we have an edge, even if it's just that small. I think that if I see plus 185, I'm probably going to get involved.
Yeah, and I do have a play on the KO prop for.
I'm all over the dogs today, man. I really am. I'm all over the dogs.
Yeah, this is a card where I feel a lot of the lines are off, but I still slightly favor the favorites. Like I only have 3 3 or 4 dogs, I think, prediction wise. But yeah, with the main event, yeah, I have 2 bets on this fight. I have the over 1.5, 2.5 units at -170. I mean, -170 was the best I could get. I wish I got like the -150, but none of my books had it. I literally jumped on it as soon as one of the books had it. I just instant bet it 2.5
I know,
because
me and you, man, out here in the freaking dark, waiting for these props to open up for us.
it's brutal.
Brutal.
But yeah, I think the over 1.5 is a very, very comfortable spot, especially at the -170 line. That's what is that, like a 60, like 3% indication,
-170,
63-ish.
63. Yes, sir.
So I think that you can easily put that at around 75 in my opinion. I think that, because to me it just comes down to what do you price a Rozenstruik first round KO? Because I don't think Sakai gets him out in the first round or first 7.5 minutes. I just think that's a very unlikely outcome, right? Sakai is not really like a knockout guy per se. I mean,
Ask
he has
Marcin.
unless you're Marcin, but Rozenstruik's super durable from what I've seen. So I don't see that. So then it comes down to
Unless
what do
you're
you
Francis,
price?
you're probably not going to knock out Jairzinho.
I mean, if Sakai comes out like Francis, then I'm going to be a little bit more nervous, but no.
Yeah. Then we bet the house on old Jairzinho to actually land the counter this time.
Yeah. Rozenstruik KO would be worst case scenario in the first round. But I think the over 1.5 is pretty safe because I feel both guys engage in the feeling out process in the first round. Both guys are slow, try to get the timing. So then it comes down to I got to survive 2.5 minutes at -170. I mean, that's a pretty good price.
I'm sorry, Wael. I'm sorry. That's it. No more hate on Tybura from me, man. No more hate. I wish him all the best, dude. I wish him all the best. As long as the fight ends inside the distance, I wish him all the best.
Yeah, so I feel like the over 1.5 is pretty safe. I was considering playing the over 2.5, but then it gets a little bit dicey because Rozenstruik does have power. But the thing with Rozenstruik is like he obviously has freak power, but he hasn't knocked out anybody that's not chinny. I mean, I go through his record. He knocked out Dos Santos, who was very chinny, and he was losing that fight up until that point, and that did go over the over 1.5. Overeem, who is a chinny fighter, and he got that with the dying seconds in that fight. Arlovsky, I don't even know what he was doing.
That's the one that makes me think he does have crazy power. Is the one where he punched the hole in his face. Yeah, I will admit that Overeem is chinny, but Overeem didn't even go out. He just like lost a part of his face and like tried to explain to the ref how he's okay. And the ref's like, no, you aren't.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even know honestly, I don't even know if I would have stopped that fight as a ref. I mean, Overeem got back up right away. I probably would have let that go 4 seconds, especially in a fight where at least watching it, it did look like he was in control. I agree with you. Watching back, I thought Rozenstruik won the 4th round, and I think you could argue he won the 2nd round.
Thank you. That is all I'm making the claim. That's the only claim that I have made about that judging is that he could have won the 2nd round. It was very close, and I thought he clearly won round 4.
Yeah. And yeah, so the Overeem definitely does have some power, but again, that came later in the fight.
Overeem gassed, by the way, that's why I think that I think that your bet is going to come true, and also Jairzinho is going to knock him out. That's truly how I feel about this, because I think that, granted, Sakai probably more likely to get tired when he's being wrestled than when he's striking. Acknowledged. But I think that Jairzinho is very durable, right? Who's to say he doesn't take a beating and then knock him out? Because I don't see why he can't do that either. Like, I think he might be getting pieced up by a guy who outweighs him and whatever else, but carrying around 265 pounds, 255 pounds, that's not easy. Moving it around over and over isn't easy. And so you have a guy who, he might not be fun to watch, but he's very economical with his energy. Like, he doesn't waste it. And so as Alistair kind of beats him up and like is easily winning, Alistair's probably feeling good. He's in the driver's seat. And then he was like, holy shit, I've hit this guy a lot. You know, I'm succeeding. I'm doing well. I can't get him out of here. And he's done nothing. So he's not tired. He hasn't done anything. Like, you have to do something to get tired. So I feel like Jairzinho, he's still got a chance of winning this fight, late. Like, I think he could win it in rounds 3, 4, and 5. That being said, not a fight that I feel supremely confident in either. I hope that that's been clear. I just think that, Sakai, he's got every chance to win this fight on minutes. And I think that Sakai by decision, I think that you have a ticket on that. Am I correct? Yeah,
Yeah,
that I feel
0.5.
like is the bet to make on Sakai if you're going to
Yeah.
make one. And I think, it's not outside the realm of possibility. These are heavyweights, right? If he does put a beat down on him, maybe he doesn't get so tired. Maybe he just beats him up, takes him out in rounds 4 or 5. I think that's very plausible too. I think there's a good chance your bet's going to hit.
Yeah, I do. 0.5 units plus 350 Sakai by decision. I honestly think that's probably how he wins. Rozenstruik's super durable. The problem I have with Sakai that kept me off the money line because again, Rozenstruik.
What's that sitting at, by the way? Plus 100, I think.
Which one?
The money line on Sakai.
Yeah, plus 105, plus 105-ish, minus 110 and minus 105 on some spots around there.
FanDuel
It's a
plus
tough
108 is the best
spot.
you can get.
It's a tough spot because I feel like a lot of people, myself included, like before I even got into the tape, right? Sakai's got the volume edge, right? He's going to be throwing. Rozenstruik doesn't throw anything. He wins the fight.
Yep.
But when you get into the tape, man, it's tough because Sakai isn't Cyril Gane, right? Like Gane is very good at staying to the outside, picking his spots, making sure he's not there to be hit. Sakai is not, right? He throws a lot
and
of
he's
volume.
a monstrous hitter, by the way. Like,
yeah,
the underrated hitting power. If I think that Jairzinho was smart to not engage too much, he would have gotten killed.
Yeah, it's just Sakai is very susceptible to counter punches when he goes in for combos. And yeah, he looked fantastic on the feet against Overeem in the first 3 rounds, but it's hard for me to hold any stock into that because Overeem is like, we know Overeem late in his career. He kind of just like, curls up against the fence and just blocks. Doesn't offer any counter threat. If Sakai starts running in like that, chin, because he could do whatever he wants on Overeem. Overeem's not throwing any counters, so he can go hands down rushing him. Rozenstruik is a counter puncher. He's got great counter hook shots. So as much as
timing, short left hook.
as much as I thought that I was going to be on the dog here, I think that I personally have it around like honestly a pick 'em. I think looking at Sakai, you can think that he outvalues him and he probably wins a decision by landing more, but I feel he's going to get hit when he rushes in. And Rozenstruik decision, it's as you said, it's not likely, but I mean, if he maybe block, because his striking defense is kind of bad, though. If his striking defense was better, I would rate him more to win a decision.
It's so bad, dude. He's got some of the worst striking defense in the UFC.
So, I would be more kind of confident on him. Not confident, but more optimistic to the fact that he wins a decision if he didn't, because I think he's going to get hit like 6 times for every 1 encounter he lands if they come like that. It's just, does he knock him out with that counter? So I'm off the Sakai money line. I think Sakai by decision plus 350 when I got it has a lot of value. I think that's how he wins. I don't really see him finishing Rozenstruik. Sakai is not really a knockout kind of guy. Like if I look at through his UFC career, at least, Blagoy, obviously super durable. Is not going to knock out him. Tybura, who's chinny in my opinion. Arlovsky, a guy that you can knock out if you connect clean on him. And then Chase Sherman, which was a fight that kind of was going almost finished. So I think Sakai by decision is probably, in my opinion, the most is what I'm picking how the fight to go. I think Rozenstruik's going to have more success against Gane than he did against Gane because Sakai is not Gane. Just because you have a guy that throws a ton of volume doesn't necessarily mean it's the same fight because Sakai is going to get hit more than Gane. He doesn't have the ability to pick his shots very well, and he doesn't have the ability to get in the pocket, land his shots, and get back out. He's going to get hit when he enters the pocket. It's going to happen. So I feel Rozenstruik can hit him clean, and I feel, I don't think I think it should be a straight pick'em, personally, because I think honestly you can give Rozenstruik by KO like a 45% indication. Like it is not that unlikely of a thing. Sakai has shown to be durable, but then again, he hasn't really eaten by shots by anyone of the power of Rozenstruik. So for me, it's a very sketchy fight. I'm hoping it's the most boring fight I've ever seen in my life. And Sakai just outstrikes Rozenstruik like 6-1 every round, and I cash my ticket. But as long as the over 1.5 hits, I'm fine with seeing a knockout. But I think the over 1.5 is solid in my opinion.
Well, if the vast majority of heavyweight main events have told us anything, it's that it will be boring as shit. So I'm feeling good about your chances, Phoenix. I'm rooting for you, certainly. Our man Wael contributed. I thought Rozenstruik was hella intimidated against Gane. Dude is scary. We agree. Yep. I think Gane is probably looking like a future champion in that division. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. Him and his boy Francis holding it down. But I think that we have basically covered this card. Aside from the Ricci and Fior fight, did you have any parting thoughts on Ricci and Fior or Ahoyo and Tom Breeze? I think those are the two fights that we didn't really touch on.
Yeah, we didn't touch on those two, and then the Levitt Puelos fight, but I don't have any opinions. I don't know if you do, but I don't really. And then De La Rosa.
My opinion was that fight is a pass fight.
Yeah, gone.
And it's like, I feel like that fight is just impossible to make a read on. Puelos hasn't fought recently enough. So, I do like his training situation. That's all I'll say. I like people training at Sanford. I think it's a good gym. But
yeah, and then in the chat here, we also missed the Lipsky fight as well. I actually have a read on that fight. But yeah, with the Fiorio fight, man, I think Fiorio, I kind of beat the line. I'm really actually pretty confident in the spot. I was considering adding more, but the line's gone now. I have one unit on Fiorio inside the distance, -120. I think that actually has a lot of value, man. Fiorio, like, she's a finisher. Like, okay, before I start, like, I know I'm gonna make the comparison. It's not the same situation by any means. But the Dvorak versus the other short notice guy who took it in like 24 hours notice, like, I was really beating myself up that I didn't take Dvorak inside the distance, because like, these guys are finishers. Like, Dvorak in the UFC wasn't a finisher, but before that he was on like a 12-fight finish streak, so that was easy money. My book did not drop the sub prop, and I actually called that fight. I said Dvorak submission rear naked choke, and I was so frustrated that I couldn't get it. But anyways, getting off topic, just it was like plus like 850 or something. It was very frustrating. But anyways, Fiorio, I think she knocks out Ricci. Ricci, I mean, the argument to bet against Fiorio last time was level of competition. You can't use that here. Ricci hasn't beat anyone with a winning record, and she's only in her 5 wins. Her opponents have a combined 4-19 record per Sherdog. So I think Fiorio she's a finisher. I mean, she's finished everything except one fight. Like, we saw what she did to Victoria Leonardo last fight, like, demolished her. So I don't see why she won't finish.
Do you rate Leonardo?
No, but I also don't rate Ricci. I think Ricci is early in her career. I think she's a decent grappler. But she's in the wrong weight class. She's taking it on short notice. She's at a massive size disadvantage. And Fiorio on the scales, I mean, she looked a little like kind of like dazed a little bit, but that, to me, that's showing that she's cutting a lot of weight, that she's going to walk into cage at like 140, 135, very heavy. Well, she's going to have like a big size advantage. So if you want to make the argument that Ricci gets the fight to the ground, potentially, because Fiorio, we have seen, there's some holes in her grappling to a degree in her first fight against McCourt. I don't really think she's going to be able to have the strength to take her down. Like, Fiorio is she's big, and I think she has wrestling too. She took down Leonardo, so she's definitely has wrestling. That's obviously not her strong suit, but she has it if in that kind of, like, she's obviously been like kind of training it, if you get what I'm like saying to a degree.
Yeah, but it's like a fallback.
Yeah, I just think that Ricci's not going to be able to get her down. She's not going to be able to have the strength. I think she's definitely the better grappler, but I thought Fiorio in the McCourt fight, I thought she looked okay on the ground. Like, she was kind of like trying to pull sweeps and stuff. It's not like she was like getting dominated, and it was her first pro fight. I thought she looked okay. And on the feet, right, Ricci, to me, doesn't have the, like, I know we haven't really seen her get hit, but I know you mentioned it on the crew the other day, that she, against that Anderson girl, she kind of looked a little stunned when she got hit by her. So I think Fiorio, who's going to have much more power, she's bigger. They're not in the same weight class. She doesn't have the greatest striking defense. She kind of just like did like the Ben Rothwell versus Ty Burr to kind of like blitz forward kind of style to close the distance. I think Fiorio is definitely going to counter her. She's got great counter hook shots. She's got a lot of power. And through 15 minutes, I find it very hard to believe she cannot finish this girl, especially if she's the highly touted prospect that a lot of us think that she potentially could be. So I love that spot a bunch, personally.
Dude, I think, number one, excellent snipe on the price, because I know that price is long gone market wide.
Yeah, it's like -165 or something like that now.
And I think that's going to continue to grow in all likelihood. Now, granted, I will acknowledge up front, I am on the Ricci side ever so slightly. Not that she's going to win the fight. In fact, I think it's unlikely that she wins the fight. But I also thought that an 18% indication or whatever was a little ridiculous. But
yeah,
we'll end up seeing in the end, right? I think that Fiorio, I'm with you. McCourt. Well, actually, number one, let me address this really quick. Wael asked, what about the Queen of Violence, Lipsky? I provided my answer in the comments, but I just wanted to give you a chance real quick, Phoenix. Do you think that Lipsky has a chance? Do you rate her in this spot or no?
No. I have Montana De La Rosa inside the distance, plus 275. Okay. I think that line's kind of down to like plus 240 now, I'm pretty sure. Um, I was interested in putting more when it was still at plus 275. I just find it really hard to believe Montana De La Rosa doesn't finish this fight. I mean, I'm not high on Lipski. I mean, if you look at her UFC career, like Molly McCann was able to take her down twice. Like that is a bad look. Antonia Shevchenko
Concerning.
was able to finish her on the ground. If
I had a bet on Lipski against Shevchenko, and she moved to my never bet again list after she lost that fight.
I mean, if Antonia Shevchenko was the farthest thing from a finisher, so if Antonia Shevchenko can finish you on the ground and you show no offense off your back, you show nothing, just accepting bottom position, I find it really hard to believe that Montana De La Rosa can't find a finish in 15 minutes. I think opportunities will be there. I think she's going to go right to the wrestling. Um, you know, it's not like she's like not like, I mean, if you look at her record, like 8 of her wins are by sub. It's not like she like just sits there on top of you and just hopes for the decision. Like she tries to make positions happen. And I think that this is a horrible stylistic matchup for Lipski. I wouldn't play the money line because I mean, it's women's MMA and you never really want to play a minus.
And it's like minus 270 now.
270. Yeah. It's just never going to happen. But inside the distance plus 275, I think that line's way off. I think she does finish. I think she finishes most of the time, honestly. So small stab there. I wanted to add more, but win or lose, I think based on looking at the fight stylistically, looking at it from the outside, I think she finds a finish.
I think our man Wael here is a little disappointed. Damn, my lottery parlay not looking good now. Sweating emoji.
It's women's MMA, man. You could get there.
Absolutely. And here's what I'll say, right? I have been on the fade Montana De La Rosa train in the past, not the back Montana De La Rosa train. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that she's not a bad fighter. She's got some upside. She's competing even with the girls that I think she should lose to. I bet a lot of money on Arujau to beat her, and it was a little dicey. So I think that, you know, Montana's got some skills. I think that Lipski, you know, I actually was impressed by Lipski when she got that knee bar finish, and it made me think, oh, she might have a ground game. Like she, you know, maybe she's got, you know, something to offer. And no, she doesn't at all. And it's just, I think her wrestling is just exploitable. And when you have a fighter like that, you know, I'll be honest, guys, betting on women's MMA is something that's a little more difficult for me. I'm trying to get better at it. But it's something that I've been adjusting to, right? I had great confidence in Yan Xiaonan last week, and she displayed not one thing that I had seen on tape in that Carla Esparza fight. Also, though, in fairness, I've seen Carla Esparza go out there and just blood and guts decision with everybody in the world, and she comes out with a killer mindset, just pounds her into the ground. I was like, all right, maybe I should stay off these women's MMA bets for a while and keep doing more research to try and identify how to spot value. But I could tell you guys, I won't be backing a chalk money line women's fighter unless I see something that is really standing out to me. Now, as for the Fiorot fight that we were talking about before, I think that, you know, Fiorot impresses me from an athletic perspective. I think that she is pretty freaky in her power. Women's MMA, we don't see a lot of women with tremendous hitting power, stopping power. I think that she also has good physicality and strength in the clinch, but she has some habits that I find like a little baffling. Like she pushes people into the cage consistently. From what I've seen on tape, like she just like can't help herself. She like runs people onto the cage, and then she gets turned around sometimes and put onto the cage herself. Like she is having success striking in open space, and because she's physically stronger, like she'll collapse the pocket into a clinch and just push her opponent into the cage sometimes. And I don't understand why. And I do think that Ricci is the kind of person that might have something for her there, right? Like when I watch Ricci, all she wants to do is push the fight up against the cage and then look for weird, like overhook throws and like, you know, kind of tosses that I view as typically low percentage. But then I go back and I watch the Liam McCourt fight where I acknowledge, right? I was impressed by the grappling of Manon Fiorot based on what I had heard about this fight, right? I was like, I heard that she's exploitable on the ground and she didn't look great in her footage there. So I go back and I watch it, and the things that bothered me were the IQ, were the willingness to be put on the cage, were the like getting into these cage clinch exchanges where she was getting taken down. And then also how this girl, Leah McCourt, was taking her down, which was with these bootleg judo looking trips and whatever. And, you know, I don't say any of this to discount them, right? I love wrestling. I love grappling. I love what judo has to offer. But I do think that a lot of their throws and whatever are fairly low percentage in MMA. And it just worked already against Firo. And Ricci is probably better at judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu than Leah McCourt. So that's why I was like, maybe something of interest here. Now, that being said, I'm basically taking this bet out of principle, which is that she's plus 450.
Yeah, that's too wide.
Plus 450 on short notice. So again, it's an 18% implied win probability. I think there's no way it's less than 25. And I think that you could argue it's closer to 30. So I think that there's definitely value on the line. Granted, I'm limiting my exposure because I do think Firo is a much better athlete. I do think that she should win. I think she should win standing. I think she could win grappling. But I just think that in all likelihood, the fight plays out closer than those odds indicate. And if Ricci can get one takedown, it could be the difference maker in the fight. Like if you see Leah McCourt, she wasn't looking for submissions. She was looking to punch her in the face. Like she was getting to like crucifix positions and trying to throw punches, but didn't look like she was doing a tremendous amount of damage, right? She was scoring points, not doing damage. I think that this Ricci chick might be more interested in going for submissions. And for that reason, I was interested in taking the stab at the price. I also wasn't seeing that price floated in a lot of places. It was it was like plus 390 in some spots, plus 400.
Yeah, plus 450.
I saw plus 450 hanging out there. I was like, I'll take that.
Yeah, worth it. The only like issue,
Roxanne, the GOAT of women's MMA.
the only problem with Ricci is it's just the size for me, man. She's a hard girl to read on because she's obviously looking insane, not insane, but she's looking very good in the grappling realm. It's just tough because she's minus 2,500 against the girls that she's fighting, which is a little tough. And I just feel that she's not going to be able to take down Furio due to the size disadvantage. And the McCourt, I will definitely give you the that I noticed that as first thing too, right? The fact that she's a black belt in judo and the fact that Furio got taken down with those hip throw tosses. The only problem is
ugly ones too, man. Ugly ones.
The only problem is Leah McCourt's 5'8", 69-inch reach, last weight in at featherweight. Ricci straw weight 115, 5'1". I think Ricci's a decent fighter. I think she's an okay grappler. I think she's young. I just think it's a tough fight. Soon. It's a tough fight. Like this is a prospect that a lot of people were picking over Moreau's, right? So I know it was kind of split.
I was gonna say I think. I don't know exactly what the breakdown would be, but I felt like I was seeing a lot of sharps on Moreau's. And again, it's because people like what they see from Firo. Like I acknowledge up front, like Firo has done impressive things. That's why she's being steamed. But I think that the opening price made more sense. I think like odds makers had a pretty good grip on where this fight is. I think they opened at minus 350. Let me double check that.
Minus 450.
Wow. And it got bet back down. Oh shit, man.
Yeah, the line's
definitely surprised by that. See, it went minus 450, then minus 370, and then right back to being like minus 500. So I think sharp action came in initially on Ricci, but I don't know. That's a little hard to read. I think that the market on a short notice fight is always a little bit harder to read, in my opinion.
Yeah, Money just saw she steamed it on Zalal too. Just looking at this now, he's only plus 145 now. Plus 150 is the best you can get him. So a lot of action coming in on him. Closer to fight 10.
We love to hear that, brother. All right. I think that's everything I got. Unless you got something else to get off your chest, I think we're all set, Mr. Phoenix.
Yeah, I think we covered all the fights, most of the fights. It was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Well, I'm sure that I'm going to be having you back on again in the very near future, my man. Always enjoy shooting the breeze, talking these fights over with you. If you guys have been sticking with us in the chat, God bless you. I appreciate you. Thank you for sticking with us every single time, every week. It is the good guys. That's us against the bookies, and glad that you guys stuck around, checked it out. Please, if you like this show, get subscribed to the channel, give a like on this video, tell a friend about the show. I do this shit a lot. I really enjoy doing it. My man Phoenix is active as well. We both love this. If you ever want to get at us, find us on Twitter at these very same handles. Have a conversation about fights with us. We'd love to talk to you. So God bless you all. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you to my man Phoenix for doing the stream with me.
Thanks for having me on, my guy.
All right, be well, folks. Let's get these bets.